American consumers are still feeling the pinch of inflation. They're paying about 20% more for essential items than they did just 2 years ago. Although consumer prices rose at a rate of only 3% in June, the Federal Reserve last week raised the interest rate once again to 5.5%. That's the highest in 22 years. Is that action enough to give consumers relief from higher prices and avert a recession? Well, joining us to provide some insights is Young Voices commentator, Associate Professor of Economics at Texas Tech University, Alexander Salter. Good to talk with you again, Alexander. So starting about 24 years ago, the Fed raised the interest rates 6 times within a 12-month period, and the nation ended up in a recession for most of 2001. So will recession be averted this time because of the Fed's aggressive action? What do you think?
Never say never, but I'm not terribly worried about a recession right now. Even as inflation is coming down, the employment numbers still look strong. Now, you probably have some reservations about the labor force participation rate, which is still a little low, the number of disability claims, which are still pretty high. But overall, what I think we're seeing is a pushback against the narrative that you have to engineer a recession in order to bring inflation down. It can be done gradually. And some would even say that the central bank has already gone too far. I'm not among them. I think that this is the course that we want to see going forward. I don't think that a recession is in our future.
Well, it appears the raising of interest rates has cooled inflation a bit, so still Americans are paying a lot more for just about everything than they did about 2 years ago. So are we going to see higher inflation, or do you think inflation will cool down even more?
The prices are never going to go back down to where they were before the inflationary episode took off, starting in early 2021. That's just gone. The Federal Reserve is not going to be willing to engineer outright deflation to return prices to their pre-COVID-19 trend. What we can do is get inflation back to its long-run trajectory of about 2% every year. That tends to be a rate consistent with markets being able to allocate capital to maximize economic growth.
And gasoline prices, Alexander, have jumped tremendously in recent weeks. Is that because there's greater demand with summer vacations and travel, or is something else at play here?
I don't see that as a monetary policy effect. I do think that that's reflecting specific economic factors that are about the energy market, the gasoline market. As you noted, it's a big travel season. It's summer. People want energy because they want to go places and do things. You usually see big seasonal spikes in demand about this time. It's not something that I'm overly concerned about inflation wise. Now, of course, that's going to pinch the wallets of American households. It always does. But really, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Supply and demand are still king.
How about energy independence? Reverting to that.
Energy independence would be nice, and I am not happy about the trajectory that U.S. energy production has taken under the current administration. I think a lot of good could be done for the American economy and in terms of preserving America's position geopolitically, strategically, vis-a-vis some of the nations that are hostile to American interests if we reverted to the kind of energy policy that we had under the previous administration.
Well, as the Biden administration pushes clean energy and electric vehicles, I saw where Ford Motor Company just announced its electric division will lose $4.5 billion this year. So why is that happening?
Politically allocated capital never works out well. It's just something that doesn't have a whole lot of sustainability to it because, again, that capital is being allocated not based on economic fundamentals, but based on political whim. I'm all for renewable energy. I'm all for a cleaner economy, but we have to do this in a sustainable way, in a manner that doesn't force Americans to take sudden and unexpected cuts to their standards of living. And we have to do it in a way that preserves America's position internationally against our strategic rivals. And right now, this administration is just not doing that.
Well, you also had mentioned a little bit about employment and job opportunities. What do you see happening there? More jobs than people to fill them, or will we see the labor market tighten in the months ahead?
It's possible the labor market will tighten in the months ahead. I'm going to project that we're going to keep on seeing the kinds of openings that we've been seeing recently. The unemployment rate appears to be holding steady. I don't see huge pressure on wages right now. In fact, wages just really caught up to their pre-pandemic trend in terms of purchasing power. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, most Americans have taken a real, meaning inflation-adjusted wage cut because of the policies of the federal government, especially the Federal Reserve. I think now labor markets look pretty healthy, and I'm going to project an increase, a continuation of those economic trends. There's going to be openings. There's probably going to be people who want workers that can't find them. Insofar as that results in anything, that should actually have wages going up a little bit, which should be should help American households.
Okay, well, things look pretty good then, at least better than they have been in recent months. Dr. Alexander Salter, Associate Professor of Economics at Texas Tech and Young Voices commentator. Thank you for setting us straight today. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.